Here, at the UN Geneva, the Committee on the Protection of the Rights of Migrant Workers and Members of Their Families held a panel discussion to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the adoption of the Convention. The high-level panel discussed the current challenges in protecting the human rights of migrant workers, irregular migrant flows in the Mediterranean, migrant workers in the Gulf, and undocumented children in the Americas. The event was co-sponsored by Germany's Friedrich-Ebert Foundation.
It's not at all clear yet if the current crisis will lead to a situation where the strongest anti-migrant discourse and the toughest policy on immigrants will prevail, or whether, on the contrary, a humane approach and enlightened self-interest will win the day.
The chairman of the Committee on Migrant Workers noted that in the recent refugee crisis, some developed countries had failed to remember their past and the fact that their own citizens had been migrants in other countries.
The problem is that this phenomenon, this tragic phenomenon, has been politicized. And we have to deal with this issue with a perception, with a vision of strictly human rights.
The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights expressed his concern about the exploitation and abuses faced by so many people seeking to live a life in dignity.
These abuses of migrants are intensified when their immigration status is irregular. Not only are they often denied even the most basic labor protections, personal security, due process guarantees, healthcare, and in the case of their children, education, they may also face abuses at international borders, including prolonged detention or ill treatment. And in some cases, they risk being trafficked, enslaved, sexually assaulted, or murdered.
It is possible that there might be people from ISIS amongst those refugees or migrants at borders. Not to say that it's impossible, but it is no excuse for not giving equal treatment to migrants when they're at the borders and in need of protection and also assistance.
We are trying to make sure that those who need protection, that they get protection, that those who try to be the rogue middlemen in trafficking and making business on these people, that these networks, that they are attacked and we take them out. We are trying to make sure that people who are in need of protection, that they are getting the protection and that we at the same time have a decent life for everybody involved.
In their intervention, the Holy See highlighted relevant developments as well as hindrances related to the Convention, reminded of the relevance of the Convention, and noted that no amount of visionary thought and planning could have anticipated the complex migration-related issues and challenges recently faced on a daily basis.
Either as migrants themselves or as those working at grassroots levels with migrants and their families, these non-state actors have first-hand knowledge of the humiliating rejection and stigmatization endured by many migrants, of the oppressive and unjust work conditions often imposed on them, and of the life-threatening risks presented by many unscrupulous human traffickers and unjust employers. In his apostolic exhortation, The Joy of the Gospel, Pope Francis aptly captured the constantly worsening situation experienced by many migrants today. I quote, "Large numbers of people are leaving their homelands with a suitcase full of fears and desires to undertake a hopeful and dangerous trip in search of more humane living conditions." End of quote. He sadly noted that, I quote, "Often, however, such migration gives rise to suspicion and hostility, and prior to any knowledge of the migrants' lives or series of persecution and destitution." End of quote.
Everyone on the panel seemed to agree that a business-as-usual approach to migration policy would not be the ticket.